Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a Baller.
Welcome in. It's May 6th here, Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast, and it's Borg, Betz, and Jason.
Jason, he is back to bring so much wisdom.
I'm the baller.
So much.
I
mean, Jason's takes are just
all I'm here for is wisdom and
Felix.
A lot of it. Yeah. We're doing work. It's an exciting time to be alive.
Jason, you just celebrated a birthday. Had a good little weekend away in Vegas.
Went to Vegas. I have now recovered, so we're okay.
Only took 3 days?
Yeah, about 3-day recovery.
Dude, you must not have partied very hard then.
Watch your mouth.
It's so funny, like, at this point in life, like, I don't drink that much, right? But if I have, like, a beer, a cocktail, like, the next, like, 2 days, I'm just, like, wrecked. So I can't... The kids these days, the youths, Kyle, I don't understand how that is even a thing anymore. But I've actually never been to Vegas. I've heard good things outside of the, like the...
outside of the bad things.
Right. But I've heard it's actually an awesome experience outside of the prototypical experience.
No, it's there's a lot of there's a lot of neat and interesting things there. It's just a matter of pick your poison.
I will be there in July. Taking the wife, going to the Sphere to see, of course, the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, you are.
They're back. All right,
they're still back.
I thought you were going to say, Kyle. taking the wife, taking some money out of our kids' college fund, and seeing what happens on the strip.
Maybe she'll do better than me. Just give her a little money, see what happens. So, you're back, Jason. And one of the things that I'm glad you're on this specific episode for is the projections, the ultimate draft kit. You've been going team by team, and I know that the work that you get to do there is like you are just huddled up deep in stat work. And so sometimes it's hard to come out of that world and be able to articulate that, but I'm going to try to get you to do that on this show.
I will try to follow your lead, but yeah, it's when I say it's an exciting time to be alive, it really is the stat work now that the NFL draft is in the rearview mirror. We know the lay of the land for pretty much every single team, minus the A.J. Brown is going to eventually be a Patriot thing. You can really dive deep and look at the NFL as a whole, break it down divisions, look at the schedule, and get to the grindy work that, it's funny because it's like, if this was the type of work I had to do 12 months of the year, oh my gosh, talk about burnout, hatred, pure, vile awfulness. But when you really spend 1 month of the year diving that deep into the level of data, it's just fun. It's so fun for me, addictive. So I look forward to it every year.
I'm curious, Jason, is there somebody that's stood out early in the process that you're like, whoa, that came out, like, good or bad, way different than I thought it was going to from a projection standpoint?
Yeah, there's been a handful of guys. I was surprised with how high Dak was in my rankings. I think there's some guys. Tyler Warren stood out in a very good way for me.
Yeah, baby.
Which obviously is not shocking, I don't think. But every time that we finish up and we start comparing our stats, it's always fun to see the guys that are like, oh, apparently I'm not nearly as high on George Pickens this year as, he was my guy last year, and Andy's higher on him than I am right now. So, it's hard to say that off the top of my dome. I'd have to look in. But there's also the fascinating, like, there's the questions that you go in with. I did not know where I would rank Odunze and Luther Burden. I didn't. I was like, what are my beliefs? How do I view those two guys? I know on film what I saw. I know the body type, the route, trees that they're both working with. But I wasn't sure going in, like, who I would prefer to have if they had the same ADP. And then you do the work and you go, okay, I guess I'm a Rome guy, or vice versa.
if you are new to Fantasy Footballers World, the Dynasty podcast, like Jason, Andy, and Mike go team by team through every single, player. They look at the target projections, they look at the pace of play, and all of that you can find in the Ultimate Draft Kit, ultimatedraftkit.com. Today on this show, we'll be looking at a couple of rookies and talking about their range of outcomes for year one. So some of the guys that Jason has statted out, we're going to work through like, hey, what would a year one look like? And what does that mean for their dynasty value? Because if you just drafted these players in your rookie drafts, you're probably looking at them in rose-colored glasses. You're saying to yourself, like, I drafted this player because I could see this happen in year one for this player. We kind of want to paint a picture, a range of outcomes for you. So if you want all of those statistics, you'll find them ultimatedraftkit.com. All the dynasty rankings, everything that we'll talk about is on the show. It's in there. I did want to get y'all's reactions to, after your rookie drafts, who are some players that went in the third round or fourth rounds of your rookie drafts, or players that you want to highlight that people were picking up in free agency? So I went back last year and looked at, who are the guys that we picked up right after the draft that I was hot and bothered by? Didn't really matter. It was like nobody last year off the waiver wire right after the draft was great. But I think there's some interesting names this year, and we brought this up last week on our mock draft episode. The guys going picks 204 to 312 feel very, very similar. Like, there's preferences. There's guys I want in the second round, like Antonio Williams, I drafted everywhere. But then there are guys in the third round, it's like they could easily go undrafted for people. So, Betz, is there any names you want to highlight for people that were later rookie picks?
Yeah, I feel like people that have been listening to the last couple of weeks are going to know this name. I've been stashing Max Clare. Again, year one, who the heck knows? They've got like 14 tight ends. It's probably not going to work. But he was a round 2 pick. It's a good offense. We'll see. Oscar Delp is another tight end who I think is at least worth a stash, just kind of given the state of the tight end depth chart in New Orleans. Not the best production profile, but did have some good athletic testing. So we'll see what happens there. But the one that I am actually pretty excited about when he falls to me in the third round is Elijah Surratt out of Indiana. Obviously, goes to Baltimore. And when you're thinking about the depth chart, like, we have to remember this is a brand new situation with Harbaugh now in New York. So a new staff, they kind of handpicked this guy. He was after Jacoby Lane, but I think Elijah Surratt has a better fantasy profile than Jacoby Lane personally. And Rashad Bateman somehow keeps getting money from the Ravens, but he kind of hasn't done anything in a long time. And so behind Zay, like, this team is kind of looking for a second option to step up, especially with Isaiah likely out. Mark Andrews another year older. So I think Elijah Surratt is a really interesting guy in the third round of rookie drafts.
Jason, anybody that you've seen in that? I mean,
there's a name that sticks out like insane to me because I've got him as my 14th player, so he should not be in the third round. I've seen him in the real leagues that I've been in. He's been in each and every third round, which is Deshaun Stribling. Stribling should not be in the third round of these rookie drafts. I know people, the 49ers, they reached. Reaches don't work. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. This bad pig is bad player. I didn't know him in the draft process, so I'm out. That's just ludicrous. He is the top of the second round NFL pick. He is going to a team that can really use him. George Kittle, is he healthy? I don't know. Sure, you bring in an older Mike Evans, you lose Juwan Jennings. They really still need more quality targets. We don't know that Ricky Pearsall can do anything. It's not a depth chart that is not able to be overcome, but it is an offense you expect to be good. So to me, I feel like when you hit the third round, if you look back on past years, the idea that in the third round of your rookie draft, you're going to what was his pick? Like 33? 33? I mean, so like top of the second, a borderline first round pick. In years past, the idea of getting someone picked at 33 in the third round of a rookie
like
pick
T.
is
Higgins.
ludicrous. It's ludicrous. Yeah, exactly. Like, imagine T. Higgins falling to the third round and it's ludicrous. But then it's happening this year? It's happening during the year where at the back of the first, it's all a crapshoot and you're like, I have no idea who to take. Everyone sucks. And so, yeah, that's the guy that in the third round I'm excited to get, shouldn't be there. The guy on the other end, like the deeper, might even go undrafted in your league that I am really excited about, simply because, I don't know, I'm hopeful. His production profile is insane, but is Heidenreich. Heidenreich, 7th round pick, going to the Steelers. Eli Heidenreich out of Navy, who's like, is he a wide receiver? Is he a running back? He's listed as running back. Is he, he was a quarterback at one point. It's like whatever he is. All I know is he put up stats that were outlandish. They were akin to CMC type of receiving production. And he's going to a team whose leading receiver last year was a running back who is no longer on the team. So if you could paint a picture, I'm like, okay, how does Heidenreich get used? He falls to the 7th. Genuinely probably a nothing, just a complete zero burger. But also, if I could have picked where Heidenreich went, if he had to go super late, I don't know that there's a much better spot. Assuming Aaron Rodgers comes back, he could end up getting a lot of targets on that team if he makes it.
It's a weird team to project moving forward. We'll talk about the Steelers. We're going to bring up Germie Bernard later, but like something's probably going to change with how the passing pie worked, because last year, even you think about the wide receiver depth chart of like Roman Wilson, that didn't work. Calvin Austin, that didn't work. And they've kind of tried to figure out like, okay, maybe we have more 3 wide receiver sets. Maybe they throw the ball more. So that will be an interesting team. Like he feels like the perfect player, Heidenreich. It's like he's going to be on my taxi squad, and I'm going to look at him, and I don't know what he's going to become. But those are the players you want to stash that have a pass catching profile. The name I want to bring up is Adam Randall, a guy that we've talked about on this podcast. I've gotten a couple places in the 3rd round. I'm not really like picking him because he went to the Ravens and I think he's going to take over opportunities. It's more of who knows down the road if a year from now things change with Henry or whatever. He'll probably live forever. But at least it's a profile I'm betting on. Once again, a pass-catching profile and a guy who's a unicorn. That's kind of as far as I can go for a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, and the depth chart there is like, if you want to, let's say Henry doesn't get injured, you've got to kind of outplay an older Justice Hill and Rasheen Ali. It's not like if he shows up at camp and is really making waves, it's not like he can't earn some touches. And then if that happens and something happens to an elder statesman in King Henry, which of course can't happen because he is immortal, it's not a bad landing spot. The only thing that was just so weird and funny is that it was like a gift pick to the owner. However, I was thinking about that. Like, if you don't know the story, if you haven't heard it from either episodes past or elsewhere, the 2nd, 5th rounder for the Ravens, the owner of the Ravens said he wanted to make one of these picks. And so the GM was like, hey, you're the owner. You it's your team.
Because he listens to our podcast and heard us talk about him.
Exactly.
Obviously.
And so they gave that pick to the owner. The owner takes Adam Randall. So at first I was like, that is like, okay, this isn't even how much of this is the scouting department? This is like a weird one-off pick. But then think about it in reality. Don't you think the team wants to like have the owner's guy work out? Like, this is the owner handpicked Adam Randall. You're going to try to like get him along. Like, you've got a job. All these people, all these coaches, they get a check paid by the man upstairs. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I love Adam Randall in the 3rd round.
That's so funny. I was actually thinking about that the exact same way that you did the first time around, where I was like, okay, I think this is a bad thing. It's like,
yeah, it's like a fake
pick. Like you just pick him if you want. But the way that you spun it, if you have Adam Randall, you like that story. So I'm sticking
I
to
love
that.
it.
Yeah.
I will say though, just
you look at it however you
exactly
want.
on the lines of kind of the guys that we've talked about. A common theme is like new coaching staffs coming in and picking their guys, like Surratt, Adam Randall, Oscar Delp to some degree, right, with the Saints and that kind of thing. Like, I do think there's a path this year where like the consensus boards, and that's been a whole discussion point, are kind of just all over the map, and you have new staffs coming in that want to get their guys on the field. So to Adam Randall's point, like Justice Hill was like a Harbaugh favorite, right? Like ultra reliable, dependable, kind of had his role. Like who knows if that's the same under this new staff. So I love that call out there with Adam Randall.
It's just interesting when I look at the other running backs that are taken in the 2nd round of rookie drafts. It's like Emmett Johnson, it's Singleton, Katron Allen, guys that pretty much have the same draft capital, right, in the 5th round. And Katron, I think, was in the 6th. And it's like Randall's right there. He's just getting pushed to the 3rd because of the situation and the opportunity, perceived opportunity for those guys where, I don't think any of us thought that Randall was way less talented than some of these other guys. But at the end of the day, I wish I could just say this player has an opportunity to hit in their first year, but round 3 picks, undrafted guys, like it's such a thin needle to thread that you're just hoping that somebody towards the end of the year can kind of catch on. So we will check back in on some of these names, especially as we go throughout the season. Let's hit a quick break, and we'll talk about these rookies. This episode we've done the last couple of years, and I think it's an interesting thought exercise right after rookie drafts, where we consider the high-end outcome, the median outcome, and the low-end outcome for a player, and what it does to their dynasty value. I went back and looked. There are some years where we talked about a player and we said, well, if they get hurt, here's what this could do for their dynasty value. Like we talked about Anthony Richardson one year on this episode. And we said, well, if he gets hurt, I feel like we'll all give him a free pass the next year because we won't know what he is. Same thing happened with Trey Lance. So it's just interesting, like injuries at some level actually in Dynasty, like kind of just push things down the road. And you're kind of just like, oh, I don't know what to do with this player. Jonathan Brooks, right? Like I still don't know what to do with him, even 3 years in. So part of this is just looking through a different thing. And then Jason, you're going to bring up some of the projections that you have right now in the Ultimate Draft Kit that are still in process. I want to be very clear.
Mm-hmm. These are not finalized, not till June 1st.
There you go.
Well, they're not even finalized until kickoff because they're always updating. But yeah, right now they are like the first go run where I don't even truly know my rankings. Like it's a different process. I'm not like putting guys in order and then I'm like, oh, these are my rankings that I just decided. This is like when you stat these guys out and you're done, it's like, okay, where is this guy? Where did he land amongst people? I think it's a much more accurate way to look at it, but it means I don't really even know the order of my guys perfectly yet.
Yeah, and that's totally okay. Let's jump into it.
Hey, rookie, welcome to the NFL.
All right, so we're going to name a couple players, give the high-end expectation of like, man, if they killed in year 1, here's statistically what they could do, here's what this means for Dynasty, and then kind of work our way down to the median, or in other words, like here's, generally speaking, what maybe some of the prop lines have, what we have for projections, and then maybe the low-end range. Last year, we also talked about Cam Ward, who didn't really run the way that we wanted him to, and therefore he's kind of just still stuck in this middling spot. The same thing we did, with some other players that like we just kind of passing it off. Hopefully in year 2 he takes a jump. And then I even looked at Caleb Johnson, who in Dynasty, I know for a lot of people, it's like, why are we ever going to talk about that player? Last year we said maybe he could be the lead back. We also said, well, what if he just sees like 120 opportunities, which is just a very simple medium range outcome? Or what if he never establishes a role, which apparently is what he decided he wanted to do. So the first name is Mendoza. We got to bring up Fernando Mendoza and also kind of bring up the fact we don't know how many starts. So Jason, let's start there. How many projected starts are you giving Mendoza for the Raiders, knowing that Cousins likely will start the year?
Yeah, I did a 9 and 8 game split. Cousins starting the first 9. The final 8 for Mendoza is how I have it kind of statted out. Obviously, this is a situation where if Mendoza is, just God mode there, he could start week 1. Anytime you take the number 1 overall pick, that is in the range of outcomes. But Kirk Cousins is not just some tired old incumbent that is easy to usurp. Cousins is a veteran who is there to start week 1 right now. The problem is, like, you could say, oh, well, then Kirk Cousins maybe plays the whole year. I think the Raiders would like that. I think the Raiders would prefer for Cousins to play the whole year. Range of outcomes on the low side for Mendoza is he doesn't play snaps in his rookie season. it's just very difficult to imagine that the Raiders win enough games to keep doing that.
Right.
In order for him to play a full season, they've got to be getting close to, they've got to be a 9-win team. They've got to be above 500 to not get replaced. If they're getting, if you go into week 10, I don't know where their bye week is, but assuming their bye week hasn't happened yet, and you're a 3-win team, it's just, you're not going to stick with Cousins. You're going to say, okay, it's time to get the rookie in. The crowd's going to demand it. The people, the ownership. So I've got him on a 9-8 game split.
Okay. Betz, I know that one of the things that we talked about before is also like his passing yardage line, which I know this is talking about sportsbooks, but like they laid it so high that it got hammered down because I don't think they factored in how many starts this guy's going to get. Right now it's around 2,500 passing yards, which is very different than where it opened. But what do you kind of see as like the median range outcome for him?
Yeah, I think just to Jason's point on the Kirk Cousins thing, I agree with that. I mean, if you look at the contracts that, not just this year, but like historically what he signed, that is a rich man. He's getting paid like low-end starter money this year. Now, like, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to start the entire season, but I agree with you. I think they would love it if they could have Kirk in there for 2 months and then maybe turn the keys over eventually. From a expectation standpoint, I'm with you that I would be shocked if he doesn't play this season just because their win total is 5.5 in kind of the betting world. And obviously when you're in a division with the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Chargers, like, I think we all know where this is likely headed. I think they'll be better than last year, but doesn't mean that they will be competing for the playoffs. So if that does not happen, I think Fernando Mendoza does see the field. Just a matter of when is kind of the expectation there. The tricky thing is that when I look at the situation, I think we all agree like the scheme fits him pretty well. Like I'm pretty excited about the scheme fit here with Kubes. I really wish they did more in the NFL draft to kind of support him with wide receiver talent. They do have Jack Besh, so I mean they're probably fine. But the big signing was, Jalen Naylor, and it's like Trey Tucker and Naylor and all those guys. It's just kind of a hodgepodge group. Obviously, Brock Bowers is him, and he's incredible. But like, I really wish they had another piece here to really support Mendoza. So I think the most likely outcome here is he starts roughly half the season, give or take, kind of takes his lumps, doesn't have a lot of juice as a fantasy scorer, and then we're kind of looking at his data from his rookie season and saying, okay, what if they put more weapons around him in year 2? What could this look like moving forward? Is kind of how I see it going. But yeah, to your point, like on the line on his passing yards, open at like 3,100 roughly, and it's all the way down to 2,500 because people are expecting him not to play the entire season.
Yeah, I had him statted out basically a 17-game pace of 3,300 passing yards. And so that's like not going to have, he's not going to hit 3,100. I mean, that would be the easiest under bet when you're factoring in not playing 17 games.
I wish they were the team that traded for Jalen Waddle from like a scheme fit standpoint. It was just like, I want somebody on this team that can run crossers that like, that's Bowers. And Bowers is going to be a monster this year. I saw your rankings, Jason, like Bowers at 1.
Yeah.
That's where that's where I have him in best balls.
I mean, there's no one else to throw the ball to. I mean, right now I've got the second leading target receiver, Jack Besh, and that's a projection.
I love it.
Gross.
We've been here all along. Never a doubt.
Yeah. Never wrong, just early.
I think for Mendoza, like right now in our startup rankings, which you can also find in the Dynasty Pass, we have him at QB 16. So right around Tyler Shuck, Jordan Love. The thing is with these type of picks at number 1, they hold their value. So even if he gets, let's say he gets 5 starts this year, it's like not impressive. Or you think Mahomes, you remember Mahomes had 1 start the final part of the year, and then the next year is when he blew up. Like he's going to hold his value into next year. And like Betz said, hopefully they add another pass catcher in the next year or so. Even beyond that,
even beyond next year, if he plays poorly, you still retain. Look at Bryce Young.
Right.
Bryce Young was straight benched. I mean, not injured, just like you're not good enough. You are no longer our starting quarterback, but the investment there gave him another chance, and now it's like, okay, he's still the starting quarterback, and yeah, he's been bad, and he's not like this fantasy asset that you really need, but if you're in a Superflex league, you're throwing Bryce Young in there from time to time. He is an important. There's only 32 starters, so he's one of them. That draft capital at the 101 just carries weight.
I even think about what Caleb did his rookie year, where like the struggles of just reading NFL defenses, they were there, but he had ceiling games for fantasy. So like you kind of sprinkled those in, so you saw where it could go. I think the final question I have for Mendoza: will he ever run enough to be somebody that we're like, man, that guy had a top 8 fantasy season?
I think he could. That's one of those really tough things because he wasn't this prolific dual threat quarterback in college. He has the physical tools and the capabilities to do that. I liken it a little bit to Justin Herbert, who Justin Herbert is fully capable of being a more mobile quarterback, doesn't need to, doesn't prefer to, wants to sit in the pocket and distribute the ball, but has the physical tools to be able to do so. And then we've seen years where it's like, oh, he does have a bigger impact on fantasy because he runs for more than 300 yards. I've got Mendoza at 330 rushing yards as a full season pace, but that's one of those where it's like you are guessing. That's sometimes you can put a number down and you feel super confident on it. On this, it's like if he was to be a guy that comes out and rushes for 150 in a full season, I could see that.
Yeah, I'm looking at what Cam Ward did last year, where they actually had a very similar rushing yardage share in college, both 101. Cam Ward was at 17 games played. He ended up with just 159 rushing yards. Where like that was the part of the equation with Cam Ward. We're like, is he going to run? We know he can sling the ball. We hope he's in shootouts, but 159 yards is not enough to be a fantasy difference maker. So
yeah, I
think Mendoza can get there eventually. Let's talk about Jadarian Price, because his range of outcomes before the draft was this guy go in the first round to is it going to be a good landing spot? He ended up in a great landing spot in the first round. Check the boxes that we want. Right now in our rookie ranks, we have him at the 106 in Superflex, and then in startups, the RB21. I thought that was really interesting looking at our startup rankings. Like, okay, here's the group that he's with. But I'll start with you, Betz. What would be a high-end outcome for Jadarian Price in year one? And then how likely do you think that is? Because I think we all assume he'll take over as the lead back. But we've also been in situations like this where it's like, oh my gosh, Emmanuel Wilson is seeing more opportunities than we want. And then eventually Charbonnet comes back. And this week, George Halani caught 4 balls or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the high end here is like the most obvious stuff that like you kind of think about what matters for fantasy and it works out. Where it's like, first round draft capital, goes to a run heavy team, a good team that is losing Ken Walker and has Zach Charbonnet coming off of an ACL injury that was very, very late. So we've already talked about that on the show here. It's like, I could see a world where Charbonnet is not really contributing in a meaningful way for this team until maybe like November period time. And it's like, if he has the runway in the first 2 months to really be the guy and he's good enough, which I think that's what we're all questioning is like the production profile doesn't match the draft capital. And so that's why there's this kind of divide in Dynasty world is like, if he is good enough, and then in hindsight, we're like, man, he was competing with George Halani and Emmanuel Wilson for competition, and we were worried about that all along. That's the high end where he gets everything and he's awesome and he takes it and runs away with it. I could see that happening. Like, I really could. I question how likely that is to happen, though, just because this is a team that, for years recently, the last like 4 years or so, has always liked that committee approach. And that's the part I don't understand, truthfully, is like how those ancillary pieces fit in, because they're not highly coveted NFL talents necessarily, whereas clearly this Seattle Seahawks organization wanted Jadarian Price so bad that they were not willing to let him get to 64. So that's the high end. I could see it happening. I think it's just a highly volatile situation.
Looking back over the last decade, we've actually only had 3 rookie running backs taken in the first round that hit 10-plus rushing touchdowns. So I was looking at like the high-end outcomes.
Really?
Yeah, it was Zeke, Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, Fournette was at 9, Najee was at 7. And if you really think about it, the teams that have taken first-round rookie running backs, generally speaking, have not built their team the best way. I think we'd all agree on that point.
Yeah.
And they've been on teams like, I don't know, the Falcons, who take Bijan at 8, or the Lions, who weren't great at the time, Gibbs got there, but it's rare to have a first-round running back, and it's rare for them to have 10 rushing touchdowns right off the get-go. But this is a different situation, right? We usually don't see a running back drafted on a team like this with this type of, clear rushing profile. But I don't know, Jason, what's your median outcome that you have projected?
Yeah, my median outcome is not great. I bumped him up a little bit after my initial rankings, put Jadarian about running back 29, not even an RB2. Bumped him up a little bit. The last time we saw this situation, which was a running back who drafted to a great team, who had a need at the back of the first round draft capital, was when they overdrafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he went to the Chiefs, and we got so hot and bothered because it was like, oh my gosh, first round draft capital. But actually, Clyde, I wasn't that big a fan of Clyde as a prospect that year. He was my 6th ranked pre-NFL draft running back. And of course, after that draft, it was like, oh, he's the number 1 running back in fantasy, and that turned out to be a terrible decision. I don't want to make that same mistake here. This guy does not have the same receiving profile in Jadarian Price that Clyde had. Clyde, went to a team that passed the ball to the running back and came from a team that passed the ball to the running back and had a lot of receptions in college. Jadarian Price, did he get to 10 receptions in college?
I want to say it was 4
on his entire career.
I can look it up. I want to say it was
look it up because I don't remember. I mean, it's about there. It's like a couple of catches, and it's again that is not a guarantee
15.
that he cannot. 15 catches across his collegiate career. It's not to say he is incapable of catching the ball, but we don't have proof that he is good at it. And usually when guys are really good at something, when they excel at something, coaches use it. I mean, there's a reason CMC caught so many passes at Stanford. It's like, oh, because he's really good at that. There might be a reason that they didn't really involve Jadarian Price in the passing game. So if you take out expected high volume passing, not that he won't be involved in passing at all, but you would never project him to be a high volume pass catching running back as a rookie. If you look at what you were saying, Kyle, it's very rare to have double digit touchdowns as a rookie. If he doesn't get double digit touchdowns and he's not catching the ball, I feel like the real high end year 1 outlook is probably less likely. And there is obviously an offensive coordinator change here as Kubiak left the team. The highest range of outcomes for Jadarian Price is he is that dude. He has a ton of breakaway runs, and he runs for 1,210. And then you're super duper happy with him. That's his highest range outcome. The median is what I've got, which is, maybe an RB2. He's on the RB2-3 bubble for this season. And then the low end range is he doesn't catch passes at all. He ends up with 6 touchdowns. And the second half of the year when Sharps is back, they're just in a 50-50 timeshare. And you're really getting not an asset you can play in fantasy.
Just to give you some historical comps, like we've had first round running backs that weren't really the dude at college, like they shared the backfield. And then teams drafted in the first round, and here's what they did rookie year. Josh Jacobs was one of those guys. He was really, really good. He only caught like 20 balls. So he ran for over 1,000. He had 7 touchdowns. I feel like that would be an excellent season for Jadarian Price. Over 1,000, 7 touchdowns.
Yes.
Sony Michel, I think, is another interesting name that the Patriots took him 31st overall. He ran for 931 and 6 and only caught 7 balls.
That seems exactly like what Jadarian's line is going to be. So what was Sony's like running back rank that year?
RB28.
Okay, so that's exactly where I've got Jadarian, and that's the outcome I see as likely.
Yeah, I think we're still just trying to figure out like how much of the pie do these other running backs take up? And maybe at the beginning of the year it's slow, and then you kind of hope that he's just the second half hammer for your team, but that's when Charbonnet comes back. So
yeah, that's the issue is like he's got to get off to a hot start to establish it and say and hold Charbonnet off when Charbonnet gets back.
Are you guys aware off the top of your head? I know we're talking about this year. What is Sharp's contract status? Is he a free agent?
This is the final year.
Interesting. So I wonder, like, they're probably going to wait and see how's the recovery going with Charbonnet. How does Jardian's perform in year 1? to make a decision on Charbonnet financially, I would not be surprised if like, and this might sound crazy in hindsight, if like Jadarian Price's peak of dynasty value, truthfully it might be right now, but like in the first like 6 to 8 weeks, and then all of a sudden Sharps kind of comes back and he does Sharps things, and we get to March next year and he signs a contract extension, and then we're all like, huh, so Jadarian Price isn't a bell cow. What do we do now? I think that's possible. And that sounds crazy to say right now, but I think that's definitely in the range of outcomes as well.
Yeah, because I think the picture that we paint, at least I did, drafting him in one of my dynasty leagues, was, okay, well, I don't know if it's going to be there this year, but obviously next year he has a clean path, and he's just only going to take off from here.
I mean, if they do let Sharps go, that's possible.
Yeah, the potential is there for sure. The range of outcomes for him is maybe in 2027, he is the dude for a really good team, in which case you've got, something great at the running back position for fantasy. I find that to be the unlikeliest outcome.
All right, so I'm going to put this to the test. Right now, we have him as RB21 in our startup ranks. Where do you think he will go next year, a year from now? I'm going to put it at like 15 or 16. Like, I think he's going to grow.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think he will be more valuable next year than he will be this year.
I think he might be lower.
Is that because I drafted him in that league?
Yeah, and you're usually not very good at this, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
what?
That's a good point, Betz.
That's fine. Just that's the best part about Dynasty, when you draft a player and you know that they're just going to drop in value. That's why you want to get them. Let's go to Carnell Tate.
It's like that was like drafting RJ Harvey, where it's like, he's so old, he's going to drop so quick.
But you just needed him for that one stretch run. And if you won a championship with RJ Harvey,
hey, you're not disappointed you got him.
Yeah, you did fine. Carnell Tate, 21 years old. Gosh, he's super young. In our startup ranks, we have him as wide receiver 15. I checked a couple other sites. They also have him at wide receiver 15. So we're kind of in consensus of what Carnell Tate is long-term, where he is in rookie drafts. For year one, man, I've heard Andy talking up the Titans. He has been talking up Cam Ward so much to the point that I did not realize this until today. I showed Betz. But did you know that he flipped Tate as his wide receiver 1 after Tyson had been his wide receiver 1 the whole process?
For rookie rankings.
He flipped him. Because, Andy was the Tyson guy.
Yeah.
And now he's the Tate guy.
I don't blame anyone for doing that. To me, it's a coin flip between those two. I love the landing spot for both of these guys. It's funny because I view Shuck as a good quarterback. I don't view Cam Ward as a good quarterback. And that's not to say I'm correct. I think Cam Ward can be a good quarterback. I'm hopeful with Tate's landing spot. I'm like, okay, Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick, had some flashes, got better when there was some offensive changes later in the year.
Now they have Brian Dable.
Now that he's got a new coordinator, new weapon. Cam Ward can absolutely develop into a great quarterback. But for me, it's a projection. And I would say I view Cam Ward's ceiling as higher than Shuck's ceiling. But I feel like Shuck is like, what he showed to me was, okay, he's gonna get it done. He's gonna go out there and throw for 3,500 yards and 25 touchdowns, and that you can support fantasy relevance with that,
Yeah. I think the hardest part for me projecting Tate at the next level is we saw what he did at Ohio State, and we always kind of threw out there, man, he didn't command targets the way that we wanted to for somebody who's drafted in the top 10. It's the lowest targets per out run ever for a top 10 draft pick, except for John Ross, which I don't really count. And yet, he's what I want in an NFL wide receiver. I like Carnell Tate, the player. I love watching him play. I don't know how that will translate in terms of his statistics. Like his season-long prop right now is at 774.5 yards, 5.5 receiving touchdowns. If you got those numbers, you'd be like, that's a good year one, but not great. That's lower than what Marvin Harrison did, and everyone's, pissed off at what Marvin Harrison did as a rookie. I feel like the high-end outcome is 1,000 yards, 7 or 8 touchdowns. Basically what Tedero McMillan did this past year.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That is the high-end outcome for year one.
Okay. Betz, where do you see the kind of range for him?
Yeah, I'm mostly in line with you guys on all that on that front. I do agree with the general Titans take. I just think coaching in the NFL matters way more than any other sport. Like thinking about what this team was doing at certain points in the year with changing head coaches and play callers multiple times and just, like trotting out, no disrespect to Jameer DK and IMAGN, like backup level talent as starters. I mean, Van Jefferson is running like 80% of the routes. Like, give me a break, right? So now you get a real play caller in Brian Daboll, who, yes, as a head coach, like didn't really work out, but like still I think is a good schemer. You get a quarterback who is very willing to throw the ball down the field, and you get a wide receiver who is easily the best in the class at winning down the field. Like, I could really see the Titans making some noise this year and being a better offense than we realize. I agree with Jason, though. It does take a projection from Cam Ward. Like, we haven't seen it, right? And so then you ask yourself, how much of that is a Cam Ward issue versus a scheme surroundings issue? And if you just think about like how the NFL viewed Cam Ward as the first overall pick, I think you have to at least lean kind of in that distribution of the right side of the curve, saying, hey, if he is as good as the NFL thought and Brian Daboll is as good as most of us think, like this probably will work at some point for fantasy. I'm not saying it's going to be a revelation in year one, but like I think we could have a very solid rookie season here, and then he's like the hot year 2 breakout name that we look forward to next year.
He's going as wide receiver 30 in best ball right now. Jason, in your projections, I think wide receiver 28.
I've got him. Yep.
Okay, so like that's a strong rookie season. I feel like for the 4th overall pick, that might not excite people to be the wide receiver 28, but that's like historically speaking, looking at the last decade of rookie wide receivers, like that would be a strong finish for him.
That'd be a great season. I think the Tedero and McMillan last year is what we should hope for, and genuinely it's what I expect for Tate here. I have him projected for 1,029 yards and 7 touchdowns. But when it comes to his dynasty value, it really is Cam Ward, not Carnell Tate. Tedero and McMillan just had a sensational rookie year, but we completely have a wet blanket over the upside case for him because we, as a community, we just don't think Bryce Young can really do what it's going to take to allow him to reach superstardom. And I don't think anyone right now thinks Bryce Young is about to turn that corner and light the NFL on fire. Like, that is not the expected projection for Bryce Young. So at the end of 2026, it's not going to be how was Carnell Tate's rookie season. It's going to be good. It's going to be how was Cam Ward. Did Cam Ward look like he is on a projection to be the next young, franchise quarterback that is going to be a playoff contender, going to, be up there trying to be a top 10 offense? If so, the value of Carnell Tate in Dynasty will be like top 10 wide receiver.
All right, let me give the other end because I'm excited for him, and I was going through some medium range outcomes. Like even CeeDee Lamb as a rookie was good, not great. And you kind of saw the trajectory of like, okay, this guy's going to increase in value. His rookie year was just 74 for 935 and 5. So that's like good, but not like, whoa, you're blowing the doors off that season.
Yeah, but he wasn't the one for his team.
He
was when was that Amari Cooper when he was still in his prime? Yeah.
So that's what I want to bring up because I was going through the range of outcomes and I said, is there a world where he doesn't see the most targets on this team?
Yeah.
I mean, Wandale.
Yeah. There is
a target.
Wandale is there.
I mean, They gave him $38 million guaranteed. He's seen 140 plus targets in back-to-back seasons with this offensive coordinator, right? Brian Daboll.
Yeah, with Daboll.
So there's a world where Wandale sees more targets, and let's say Carnell's target share is like 18%, 19%.
So here's what's crazy. I think that's better for Carnell Tate.
Because he gets more high-value targets?
Because of the Cam Ward argument. If Carnell Tate ends up Like, what happened last year we keep going back to Tataroa, but it was like there wasn't anyone else to throw the ball to well. So Tataroa soaked it up and got the majority of, he was the clear one for that offense, but Bryce Young didn't look good, didn't have anyone else to throw the ball to. If you're telling me Wan'Dale Robinson is going to come out here next year and get 140 targets and do great things, then I am so much even more in on Carnell Tate, because what that means is that it wasn't Carnell Tate helping Cam Ward survive. That was Cam Ward being an NFL quarterback and using all the weapons at his disposal. And so the future is bright, even if it's not as good a fantasy finish in year one. I want Cam Ward to succeed for the value of Carnell Tate's, to be to have a fantasy finish where you are a top 10 wide receiver. You've got to have Cam Ward distribute the ball and look like a real NFL quarterback.
Do you feel like you want to, from this conversation and this Titans conversation, that Cam Ward seems like a trade candidate, that you want to trade for him?
I do.
No.
Oh.
No. So
me either.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm so glad we're on opposite viewpoints here, because this is a decision-making moment for everyone. I think we laid out the case for Carnell Tate and for Cam Ward as far as what could happen, good and bad. And then the question is, what do you believe? My heart does not believe Cam Ward is a great quarterback. I didn't view him as a great prospect last year. Even though he went 101, it wasn't one of those Andrew Luck type of, we've been waiting for Cam Ward for 4 years and now he is the clear next great quarterback. I don't think Cam Ward is going to be that dude. And so having that conversation, I mean, my projections have Carnell Tate with 1,007, which is an amazing rookie season, but Cam Ward not taking that massive step forward. And if that happens, I think we'll be disappointed in Tate.
I'm just curious, Jason, do you have your projections pulled up?
Yeah.
Where do you have Cam Ward right now, roughly, for yardage and touchdowns?
Where? I've got just stats wise,
Yeah.
I've got him at 4,100 yards, which is outstanding. A huge upgrade for him. 25 touchdowns, 12 picks, and then not rushing the ball enough. He's quarterback 20.
Yeah, I think we all kind of see the same thing, where it's like he could, for Cam Ward, take a step forward as a passer in some aspects, but the fantasy ceiling will remain capped because he's not going to run the ball the way that we need to get a top 5 or 6 score. So it really comes down to, do I want to trade for him? Yes, but what are the expectations and what's the cost? That's really the most important thing. Is if I'm getting a guy that at least I know in the best ball streets, he's kind of going as quarterback 27 or whatever it is, he's buried at those types of prices. I am in. But if somebody else took Cam Ward last year in Superflex very highly and they said, this is the guy, I know it, I'm moving forward, you're probably not getting him in a trade. So for me, it's probably more of if I'm doing a startup draft this offseason in a Superflex and I can get him as a quarterback too, I'm into that. But I don't think anybody would be expecting top 7 numbers this year or anything like that.
Yeah, people invested a very high pick in their Superflex leagues, and they're just I'm going to wait one more year to see what this offense becomes. But yeah, I didn't want to go to the low-end outcomes and just give some historical ones, because if you're drafted in the top 10, teams are going to feed you, right? That's generally speaking the way it goes. But there is a player in the Titans history that was taken 5th overall, Corey Davis, and it was not great. Not great his first year, but let's move on. We'll talk about some other names when we come right back. All right, we're going to do 2 more quick names here before we finish this episode. Germie Bernard, wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Germie,
taken 47th overall. In a startup draft, he feels like one of those dudes you're I don't know. I guess I'm filling out my bench. We have him at wide receiver 58. He goes at wide receiver 65 on a couple other sites. So it's just no man's land in Dynasty. I don't know who this player is. And honestly, looking at these pass catchers between Metcalf, Pittman, Bernard, it's hard to say this guy is going to be the fantasy difference maker that we want. Is anybody going to separate? So my first question for you guys is, will Pittsburgh's offense look dramatically different than last year? Because Aaron Rodgers 67% of his yards came after the catch. They had the worst ADOT in the league, and they only ran 11 personnel 38% of the time. That was 31st. So, in other words, it was a lot of 2 tight ends. It was a lot of 2 running backs often, where it's like Gainwell is on the field a ton. So is Bernard going to see the field enough in year 1 to matter for fantasy? And then what does that mean moving forward? Those are the questions that I'm rolling around in here. So Jason, what do you have him projected for your initial run?
My initial run for Germie Bernard, I've got him projected for a pretty mediocre 45 and 500 with 3 touchdowns. So he is just irrelevant. My projection of him as a player was a really genuinely solid and good NFL wide receiver. Not a fantasy difference maker, but someone that, if my Cardinals had taken him where he's supposed to go in the draft, I'd be like, okay, he should be good. I think it was not a bad pick by the Steelers to bring in a third wide receiver behind Metcalf and Pittman, and now all of a sudden you've got a receiving core that you can spread the ball around to. You really did not have that last year. I know we wished they hyper-targeted DK Metcalf more, but it's also the defense is hyper-focused on DK Metcalf. So you're dumping it off to, Kenneth Gainwell, and you really have no one else to throw the ball to. I think this is a much more improved offensive weapon team this year with the addition of Pittman and Germie, but there's just no path. Metcalf and Pittman aren't going away in the next 2 years, and they're not going to be usurped by Bernard. So you're talking about and there's no quarterback here that can sustain 3 weapons. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, that is the best quarterback they will have this year. And there is no way that current version Aaron Rodgers is having a third, his wide receiver 3 matter for fantasy football. And if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, it gets worse. Will Howard, Drew Allard, these guys are not supporting probably even 2 wide receivers, maybe not even 1 wide receiver when it's kind of split around. So for fantasy purposes, to me, I can't even see a high upside avenue. 2 injuries ahead of him. I don't know.
That's what I was like. I guess he could see 18% of the targets if one of the dudes gets hurt.
Yeah. I again, this isn't an anti Germie Bernard the prospect. His archetype is perfect for this team. I think he'll be in there, have some important receptions, have a couple important touchdowns, help this team. But I don't think he's going to help anyone in fantasy.
I agree. Yeah, I don't have too much to add. The most simplistic way I can think about this is do I really want this version of Aaron Rodgers, wide receiver 3, for fantasy? And it's an easy no. Last year, there were times we didn't even want his top weapon at moments, right?
Right.
So it's I think it'll help the Steelers. Don't get me wrong there. I would just be very surprised if he has a rookie season that is meaningful in fantasy outside of you're starting 3 different flexes and you're 14-team league type of situation. I could see myself throwing him in there a couple times this year. In a standard type of league, I really would be surprised if he's a startable asset on a routine basis. But he's a well-rounded player. He'll help the Steelers. I think that's more of a better pick for the NFL than for us in fantasy.
Yeah, and just to give you a number, and for a lot of these players, you're hoping they break through, but if you're taken in round 2 of the NFL draft, the average target share in year 1 is just 13%. So, Jason, I see you have him down for 12%. So he basically would be meeting the expectation of what he's supposed to do or what most round 2 wide receivers do. If he hits 15%, you should call that a home run in this year's draft that you took him in the second round of your rookie draft. And just looking a player that that came to mind to me was Tyler Boyd. He was taken in the second round for the Bengals and saw 16% of the targets, was a good NFL player for years. And
dude, that is a perfect comp. That is a wonderful, Tyler Boyd, perfect.
Yes. Now, the terrible range is if he's Jonathan Mingo or Zay Jones, guys that are okay, I don't know why they were taken in the second round. They didn't really see the target share they wanted. They were inefficient, and then their value just dropped the next year.
I mean, those are the 2 names. Those are good. Zay Jones is a good receiver. Zay Jones is a good NFL receiver. Tyler Boyd is a good NFL receiver. That is the range of outcomes here. Is he Zay Jones or is he Tyler Boyd?
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd is the upside. Keep that in mind. That is not huge upside. Zay Jones, I think, is the median. I think that's what he probably is. And that means that over the course of a career, you will have a couple starts in you where he's in your lineup. I mean, that's, not too good.
Zay Jones, it's been a while, right? But wasn't his nickname on the show the spot start?
Dude, he had that 1 year in
man.
Jacksonville.
That's his official nickname on our website, the spot
Is
start.
it?
So there you go.
Okay, there you go. So you're hoping that someday Germie Bernard is a spot start.
All right, last one. Just going to knock it out real quick. It's Kenyon Sadiq. We have him as tight end 9 in our startup rankings in a super flex, the 108. I don't even think I can go there about the high end range. And I know that the last couple years, this is something you're bringing up, Jason, on the overreaction show that we're doing on the main podcast. But it's like all these last couple years of Bowers, Laporta, Warren, Loveland, Fannin is going to paint this picture of here's the range for this guy in year one. And I don't think we have him anywhere close to that. Even looking at sports books, his receiving yards line is 500 yards and 4.5 touchdowns.
Yeah. That's great. My projection for him is 540 yards and 4.5 touchdowns. I did not know that about the sports book. So we're right in line.
Jason is the sports book. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they're looking.
He was just in Vegas.
Looking at my stuff and being like, "That's true. I was just in Vegas." Yeah, when Brock Bowers came in, he came in and was the primary receiving option. He did not come in. Well, first of all, he came in as a much better prospect. College production was fantastic, whereas Sadiq's it leaves you wanting. But one of these guys is coming in behind Garrett Wilson and sharing another first-round wide receiver who works the same area of the field that you do. Very tough sledding for me to imagine a great year one for Sadiq. I don't know. Is there a world where maybe he's a 7-touchdown guy with Geno and Geno just loves him and he, is such a physical freak that he breaks our expectation? I mean, he's drafted to have high expectations.
Betz? How many touchdowns are we going to get from this team? And then you start passing them out and you're like, okay, let's say Brees gets 3 receiving touchdowns. Garrett Wilson gets 5 to 6. Omar Cooper, gets about 5 total. Mason Taylor
Mitchell has 3.
Mason Taylor's in the UFL, like that, like those kind of things. What?
Poor Mason.
What would you,
I've heard some people make this argument, which I don't like. I want to leave my mind open to it. I think it is a very, very slim argument. People are saying like Frank Reich, he has loved tight ends in his schemes.
Frank
Guys,
Reich is the
Frank
argument?
Reich is not going to be the offensive coordinator moving forward. And I think the
He'll be the
coaching
head
staff
coach.
will be turned over in a year or two. Like that's where I see this going. So I'm not putting any stock really in scheme usage this year and all that sort of stuff. This is just a raw talent who is highly athletic but needs time in the NFL. So I would be so surprised if Geno supports Garrett Wilson, a first-round wide receiver, and a tight end, and Breece Hall, and they have enough touchdowns for us to really care on a routine basis. I'm not saying Sadiq won't have a game or two here or there and show some wow moments on tape. I would just be very surprised if it's consistent the way that we have seen from other rookie tight ends. So I lean more towards the median to lower end of expectation here, but I'm happy to be wrong. I mean, that would be fun if Geno, resurrected from what happened last year and was good for fantasy, but it's just hard to see it.
It's tough. Like I looked at some other tight ends that were taken this early in the draft. TJ Hawkinson, all right, his rookie year, he only ran a route on 55% of the snaps. It was like they had other tight ends that were in the mix that were still doing work. And as much as we make fun of Mason Taylor, he's going to be a part of this team's, snaps and what they do. Vernon Davis, who might be the best physical comp that you could give.
He is the best comp. I think nobody's had quite the combine since Vernon Davis until Sadiq.
Yeah, Vernon Davis, who became incredible for fantasy, okay? Year one, he had 20 receptions for 265 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's like, it's just this.
Do you have Eric Ebron on this list?
No, but I need to.
I mean, that's another one, right? Eric Ebron picked 10th overall at his rookie season. He had 25 receptions for 248 yards.
Yeah, I think that
still went on to someday be the tight end 4.
500 yards and 5 touchdowns is a good rookie year for the tight end position, which, people say all the time, like, this is not just for fantasy, them adjusting. They're adjusting in so many other ways to real life NFL, blocking, everything else. So I know we're probably pessimistic, I feel like, across the board, and people want to get excited about Sadiq.
Yeah. It's I will say, if you want to be excited for Sadiq, this isn't a year 1 fantasy star. This is a young guy who's a super athlete. You've got a team that is going to have high draft capital. They've got, 3 firsts next year. They're going to have their own, which could be the number 1 or at least should be a top 5 pick in a deep quarterback draft class. And like Betz said, I think they will probably have a complete turnover on the coaching staff. And when they have a lot of key components, a good-looking rookie pick coming in at quarterback, you're going to, and you're in New York, I think you'll have the opportunity to get a good coach. So all of a sudden, 2027 rolls around. You could have a franchise rookie quarterback tied to him with a good coach coming in, and there is a path for a really bright fantasy future. It's why I'm still taking him ahead of the tight end I like so much better in Stowers. I'll still take Sadiq higher. The NFL did. I'm not going to get too cute with it, but rookie year, you just can't expect what has been happening the last few years with rookie breakouts. It's not set up for him that way.
I'm gonna call my shot. Nate Scheelhaus, offensive coordinator for the Rams, next year, head coach of the Jets.
Okay, it's an early shot.
It's gonna go there.
It could happen.
Yep. That's going to do it for this episode. Make sure you check out everything we have in the Ultimate Draft Kit, ultimatedraftkit.com. And we'll be back next week talking more Dynasty. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your Dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.